Pledge of allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Welcome, everybody. Tonight's special called meeting is kind of in response to a request from County Administrator Robert Hess. We had received an email from Mr. Hess, and that email states that we can agree that North Hills and Town and Country automatically become part of the town. However, we believe the remaining rural, non-urbanized parcels are optional and desire the town to reconsider those parcels. So, ladies and gentlemen, the reason I've called this special meeting tonight is for us to debate the pros and cons of two areas that are in the Phase 2 boundary adjustment. Those two areas are Route 43 North, that north of the Little Otter River, and also the 221 corridor on the outskirts of town. So the procedure kind of is we'll take each parcel or each section, talk about it, and like I said, look at the pros and the cons. If anybody wants to remove that section, then we'll entertain a motion requiring a second, and then we'll take a vote on that particular section. So I thought it would be best if we started with the Route 43 North section. Mr. Warner, do you have any kind of information you would like to pass on to us about that?
Not really, other than just
Okay. So there's parcels north of the Little Otter River, and you know, does everybody know where we're talking about? It's kind of the Redlands Farm, and so does anybody want to start or have any comments in regard to this area?
I guess my question would be, what brought this about, or why are we discussing this?
Well, like I said, I think it's out of courtesy to
Okay.
the request we received from Bedford County.
Well, I guess we probably need some more details in it. Is it supposedly in a trust, or does anyone know what the status of that tract of land is?
I mean, I don't know specifically the ownership of it. I know, you know, it is a 43 North is certainly a rural area. I mean, it's a scenic view shed to the mountains. I mean, I know originally probably it was included as a potential growth area in the original thinking back in 2013.
Well, that's my thinking, in that, is it potential for growth, or is it?
I mean, the fact that this is 10 years old, I mean, and we're just now saying, oh, maybe not, I don't think so. I mean, that's my take. I mean, at this late hour to make a change, I mean, we're willing to listen. They asked us, the county, okay, but all of a sudden, okay, no, we don't need it. That doesn't make sense to me. We either do or we don't. We've needed it for 10 years. That was part of the deal that the county made, the deal. So I don't think any changes should be made.
Well, I tend to think likewise, and I wasn't sure any late news developments of some kind came about this tract of land or not. But
so my take on it would be this. You know, what happened 10 to 15 years ago, a lot has happened over the last 10 years or whatever. Personally, I don't see growth. It's like Phase 3. Phase 3 will go all the way up to Fancy Farm Road. I don't really see that being developed in the next 20, 25 years. Just like that parcel right there, I don't really see it unless the owners pass away or they sell the farm or something like that, or that property. I just don't see it.
Which is going to happen.
It's going to happen, yes.
Right.
But I just don't see where it's going to, at the time and moment, it's going to really break us or make us if we kept it.
Okay.
I mean, it's definitely not urbanized. I think there's probably 4 to 5 houses.
What has the county offered in exchange?
Nothing.
Nothing.
Nothing. All right.
You know, I've been, ever since this started, I think this was something that was written on a piece of paper all these years ago, you know, and nobody revisited it or thought about it until it was time. We really didn't have a conversation about it. We're looking at all these areas and that we're supposed to bring into the town of Bedford. We're looking at the services that we're supposed to provide to these areas. Some of them, yeah, that would be an easy thing. Others, I don't think it would be so easy. I just don't think we have had enough time to talk about this. I don't. And to have a vision about what's going. However, I do think that what was written and contracted, where most of your business-minded people, and if it's written and it's contracted, then it's legal. It's not something that we wanted. It's not something that we want to see. We want to do our best to do it like it's supposed to be. But me personally, I don't think we've had time to really talk about it. We knew it was going to happen. We knew that this had to happen, you know? We knew that, and everybody's talking about taxes. The taxes, town people have been paying 2 taxes forever, you know? And it's not about that. You think we're broken, we need money? No, it's not about that. It's about what was written all these years ago and put on this paper. I mean, so, and I don't think that when the time came, we actually talked about it. I really don't. I really don't think we actually discussed it other than what was on that paper, you know? We hear you, we feel you. I mean, y'all beat us up like we the really bad guys. We are not. We didn't ask for this. We don't want to disrupt anything. It was put on paper before we got here. And I think the biggest problem here is that as a council, we have not talked about it enough. I don't think we've discussed it enough. I don't think we've looked at it and said, okay, we can do this. And we really don't, we haven't talked about that. We haven't talked about that. And we should have, prior to all of this happening, we should have talked about it more as a council. And that's my take on it. But what's about to happen, it was thrown in our lap. We didn't ask for this. And if there's possibility that we can work this out, and I doubt if it is, because I mean, I just think myself that as a council, we need to sit down and discuss this a little bit more. Some of these areas, yeah, I don't think we need. I really don't. But it was written that we would bring them in, but some of them, I really don't think we need. We don't, I mean, what could we possibly offer them? There's a lot of things to consider here that we haven't talked about. And I just think that everybody now, you're waiting for these answers, we're pushing them, we're trying to make the right decision. I think we need a little bit more discussion on this as a council. I really do.
Okay, I know that, and this is probably something for another day, but it's 2 parts. One is, how much are we actually paying in services to the people that we're providing services to in phase 2 versus how much we bring in if we did bring them in. The other thing is, with this particular area we're talking about, if it's only 5 houses, then I don't see how 5 houses is going to really make that much of a difference. So, you know, I think we should maybe take this part off the table.
I tend to agree that the rural area, particularly if it's going to fall into a land, they're going to change it into a land trust.
Talk to the microphone.
The area that we're talking about is very rural, and our development for it is, I don't see how we're going to develop it at any particular point in the near future. I think it present more problems to us than it would help the town. I'm sorry, but I would tend to agree with Bob that particular area that we're talking about is what, 400 acres, something like that. And if it's never going to be, we're not going to look for development there, and if it's going to turn into a land trust, then I would say, let's cut it out and forget it.
We have no guarantee that that's going to happen. This could sell to the heirs and they can do what they want with it.
Well, that's true.
But we don't know in 5, 10 years what this is going to be. It could be a huge development in 5 to 10 years. We don't know, we're speculating.
Well,
So there was a study done years ago about why this area.
Yeah.
So that's why, there were people that put a lot of time and effort into this before we got here with large, huge reports, went before a 3-judge circuit court panel approved by the Commonwealth of Virginia. I mean, this wasn't done overnight.
yeah, I understand that.
So there was a reason why. And if we just carve some out and leave others in, guess what? It looks like we're playing favorites to the ones that have to come in.
Okay.
So I think it's all or nothing.
Okay.
My take is, if you would, please, speak in the microphone, and, you can hear us. So my take is, we have made some boundary adjustments already in Phase 2. We looked at some rural areas, some split lots, and I believe it was roughly 90 parcels maybe we took out already. And because the benefit versus the cost of providing services in those particular areas was not economical. And I tend to agree that this particular area, even though it could potentially be a growth area, is maybe one we should pull back to within the natural boundary of the Little Otter River. Some of those boundary adjustments, they were kind of arbitrary, maybe, with a power line here, or, when you're looking at geography and what a boundary of a community should look like, roads, natural features, I mean, that's kind of what you look at. So, everything else, I believe, is currently within the Little Otter River. So, I mean, I would probably support pulling those tracks out. So, any further discussion, or?
I mean, as far as the time, and I have great respect for Mr. Johannesson and Carson, we've had a lot of time to do this.
Right.
We've had 10 years, just like we've been telling them.
But we haven't talked about it.
That's,
It hasn't been a discussion. It has, until just recently has it been a discussion for us to really take a look at things.
But we have had discussions, we've made decisions. I mean, we made decisions on these previous boundary adjustments.
Last August.
We made decisions to purchase a trash truck. So, I mean, there has been discussion.
I understand that. But now here we are now saying what we need and what we don't, and trying to, and I do agree with Mr. Sean. It would seem favoritism if we could bring some in, leave some out.
Right.
But I guess you look at it in another way, what benefits would they reap from being brought into the town, these big, large parcels? That is my question. That is my question. And what burden is it gonna put on DW and his crew, which is already a lot, It's not just about that. No.
All right.
I mean, if it got developed at a later date, that would be wonderful for the whole community. And I don't know that it's, at this time, we need to worry about it.
I mean, yeah, I guess there's a water line that runs out that way, and a sewer line that does run out that way, that goes to the peaks, I believe. But,
Things have changed in the last couple years or so. 10, 15 years ago, nobody ever heard of COVID. Pre-COVID, the economy was so much better than it is right now. You know what? People are still recovering from COVID. My prediction was COVID was going to have a bigger impact economically than health, and it did have a big impact on both health and the economy. And, right now, I don't know if now's really the time to go through with this.
so, like I said, we're discussing this one area tonight. I mean, we'll be, so, anyway, is there a motion? If not, if there's no motion, it'll remain in the boundary adjustment.
I make a motion that we take these tracks out of the boundary adjustment,
The tracks north of 40,
north of 43.
I mean, north 43, north of the Little Otter River.
Yes.
All right, we have a motion. Do we have a second?
Second.
All right, so we have a second. All right, roll call.
Mr. Carson.
Aye.
Mr. Haley.
Aye.
Mr. Hartwick.
Aye.
Mr. Johansson.
Aye.
Mr. Schoen.
No.
Mr. Stanley.
No.
Mr. Mayor Black.
Aye. All right.
Motion carries with 4 ayes and 2 nays.
All right, so next item is 221 Forest Road. That was the other area that Bedford County asked us to examine. So we'll start the discussion on that area.
Same. Go ahead.
Anybody?
Do we know how much housing is in that? Or how?
It's a mixture.
It's a mixture?
It's, I believe, is it about 90 parcels?
I would say it's more like 60-ish.
60 parcels, okay. So there's a mix of housing, there's a mix of business, there's a business park, there's an industrial land. It's a little more urbanized, it's a little more built up. It has, water line running down it. And my take is, we can't give up everything, and not get anything in return, and we gotta have some room for this community to grow, long after all of us are gone. Anyway, I mean, like I said, that forest is coming here. We're seeing growth out, we're seeing some planned growth potentially on Independence. There's, some planned growth right there in that Forest Road Independence intersection. Like I said, I'm not, I wouldn't approve taking that area out.
It's a lot more future on that area than what we just discussed. So, yeah, I would be opposed to that one also.
It's a lot of growth going in down there already.
Yes.
Anybody else?
Only question I would have would be, how would I know we got growth going down there, especially to the business part, stuff like that. Forest is coming this way. How would that affect our employees in the process of trash pickup, services and stuff down in that area where that road is already as dangerous as it could be? Just ask that question.
There may be some challenges there operationally in the short term, that certainly, but are we just worried about the short term, people? Are we just worried about the short term?
We're not worried about short term.
Are we worried about the future and the long term
I understand that.
ability of this community to grow? I mean, grow some, that's,
Yeah.
so, does anybody want to make a motion? Or any further discussion on that?
Now with this, how much of it is an urban area versus how much of it is more rural?
I mean, there are probably, I don't know, 5 to 10 tracks that are larger in that area.
Yeah.
The map shows you, Bruce.
Yeah, you can look at
Take
the
a look
map on there, Bruce, and see. Yeah.
But part of that large track in there is the business park that already is in existence, and the tract of land next to it, to the river, is zoned industrial. So you got to have some land to bring some business to.
Yep.
Good.
Does anybody want to make a motion on that?
May I make a motion that we leave that track in?
All right, so we have a motion
what
to
I'm
leave the
saying.
track in. All right,
Second.
second. Any further discussion? Roll call?
Mr. Haley?
No.
Mr. Hartwick?
No?
Mr. Johannesson?
Aye.
Mr. Schoen?
Aye.
Mr. Stanley?
Aye.
Mr. Carson?
Aye.
Mayor Black?
Aye.
Motion carries with 5 ayes and 2 nays.
Anybody else would like to make any other comments? If not, we're adjourned.
And our meeting is at 5:30.